Hare Krishna.
It's quite weird. Hare Krishna. Yeah, do you know how to adjust?
Hare Krishna.
It's like some weird delay or some echo. That's down. Hare Krishna. Okay. That's still, I mean, that went less.
It's like a little echoey. It didn't happen last week.
Oh, really?
I think they ended up switching the mic.
Let me see here. I thought it was working, but I didn't test it properly. Yeah, I think he's plugging it into the phone. Hare Krishna. Test. Turn it on. Make sure it's
To be
turned
honest,
on.
yeah, I don't know.
Test? I think it was on. Test. Yeah, I don't think it's working at all. Test. Testing. Test. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Test. Testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And Johnny, I turned this one down a little bit, so maybe that's.
Yeah, they need to be turned up. Because I couldn't hear myself.
Oh.
This is, I have some sort of sorry on it. I don't know why.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
The more
1, 2, 3.
the more I'll bring over.
I don't know if we're still delayed though or not. That's the thing. No. I think that maybe we got it.
It sounds like a delay.
It sounds like it don't have that.
Yeah,
My ears not that good. To me, it sounds pretty good.
Okay. I'll just try it.
Hare Krishna.
I think it's better.
It's louder.
It's still test. It's like some delay. It's like a reverse gate or something.
Can we pretend that's on purpose? Can we pretend that's on purpose?
You lead it, I'll play guitar.
Okay, sure.
Hare Krishna.
Free Vrindavan ki jai. Free Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Mahamantra ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Lord Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Good morning, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Ari, thank you so much for leading us in Kirtan today. So beautiful. So wonderful. Welcome to our Sunday Bhagavat Shravan program. We're so happy to have all of you here today. Is this anybody's first time at Bhakti Center? Yes. What's your name?
Anisha?
Anisha?
Yeah.
Welcome. It's so great to meet you. Where are you
Same
visiting?
here.
Where are you visiting us from?
So I live in Chelsea, 19th and 7th.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. How did you find out about this program today?
My sister.
Okay,
Yeah, she's been here a couple of times.
nice. Well, Anisha, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you for
Take care.
joining. Yeah. So just to give you a little lay of the land of the program today, so we just had some kirtan. We're going to have a really interesting class coming up as well. Then we'll do some more kirtan. We'll have some arti for their lordships, a ceremony, and then we will take prasadam in the back, which is just lunch, sanctified food, vegan. It will be delicious and wonderful. So that's kind of the program we've got going today. I am very pleased and very honored to get to introduce, thank you, yes. There's not that many of us here, so it's okay. I'm very pleased and honored to get to introduce our speaker today, Her Grace Radha Bhakti Devi. Hold for applause. Thank you so much, Bhagavat. So there's a lot, I'm going to put this down. Okay, there is a lot to say. There's a lot to say about Radha Bhakti Devi. She is a lifelong Bhakti practitioner from Toronto. We're very lucky that she joins us here in New York. She is like a professional, incredible, high-ranking woman. She's been working in corporate consulting, management consulting for over a decade now. Thank you. She's a writer, a mentor, and a speaker who has inspired youth and adults across Canada and the US. Here at Bhakti Center, she does so many services that it's hard to name them all. I kept thinking of more this morning as I was putting some time to it. She leads the mentorship program at Bhakti Center. She serves on the community care team. She guides multiple community groups. And for the past 12 years, she has been working on a book about Bhaktivedanta Hospital and all of the incredible stories and service that's going on there. She is truly everybody's big sister and mentor, mine included. I tried to get her to adopt me. She said no. Hari Prasad said maybe. So fingers crossed. But we are incredibly lucky to have her expertise. And she will be sharing a class with us today called So, Are We in a Cult? Which is an amazing question, and I can't wait to hear the answer. So please give 3 very big Hari Bols to Her Grace Radha Bhakti Devi Dasi. Haribo! Haribo! Haribo!
Hi Krishna, good morning.
Hare
Bol. Thank you all so much for being here, and Jenna for that beautiful introduction. Oh, thank you so much. Ekanta. Hare Krishna. Ekanta Bhakti is my big sister, so that was embarrassing. But thank you all so much. Why don't we start with a quick Jai Radha Madhava, and then we'll dive in. May I grab some kartals? Grab these. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Veshatane. Vanchakapatirubhischa Kripasindhuvya Evacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hi all. So nice to see you all. Thank you again so much for having me. Baba Bhakti, thank you so much for asking me to speak. And to all the organizers of Bhagavat Sravana, I appreciate this program so much. And thank you to those of you who came specifically to support me. I really appreciate that also. It's nerve-wracking to be up on the Vyasasana. I literally have the words of Jaya Radha Madhava written down because I had forgotten them on the Vyasasana before. This 4-line song. So thank you for having me. This is really for my own practice and purification. And Anisha, welcome. I hope that this talk is relevant to you. Oh, good. Okay, excellent. We have done many wonderful talks at Bhagavat Sravana, and recently I was just looking through the topics that we've had. Recently we had Gorshan Prabhu talk about begging for connection. We had Tara Prabhu talk about taming the mind. And next week we have a talk called The Little Known Secret Teaching of the Gita. So naturally the topic that I thought of is so called. So thank you. Appreciate the laugh. So at Sadhu Sangha this year, which is a Kirtan festival that took place over the summer, I think in May, I was speaking to a young man in his 20s, a devotee from the West Coast. And he was telling me that he's been dating a non-Bhakti practitioner, and it's going really well. But he said that he hasn't yet brought his girlfriend around to the temple, and he hasn't yet given her a Bhagavad Gita or any of Prabhupada's books to read, because it made him really uncomfortable. So I said, okay, tell me more, like what makes you uncomfortable about that? He's like, I don't know, man, like, you know when you grow up in Bhakti or when you've been around in Bhakti for a long time, when something doesn't sit right, it's fine, we can sweep it under the rug. I can't ask my girlfriend to do that. And also, you know, we kind of look and feel pretty cultish. I don't think I feel comfortable bringing her to a temple either. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And this comes up a lot. This comes up a lot, both with the youth and also with adults, particularly when we talk about bringing family members or bringing friends to the temple or exposing them to some of our Bhakti books. There's often a lot of trepidation around. But are we a little cultish? So today, we're gonna dive right in and we're gonna try to explore it. So throughout this presentation, we're gonna use a tool called Easy Retro. A little interactive tool. Tia Frederick knows exactly what it is. Go ahead and scan this QR code. This is a tool that allows us to answer questions anonymously. So let me know when you're on.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Can I? I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that it?
Maybe
Okay.
bigger.
Bigger? Okay. Everybody got it?
I think this would be bigger.
Bigger? There we go.
There it goes.
Got it? Everybody got it? Okay. So, as I mentioned, this is a tool that allows us to answer questions anonymously. So let's give it a whirl. We're going to give it a try. So the first question, under question 1, we're going to ask a very innocent question. Describe your commute to the Bhakti Center today in a few words. So answer that under question 1, and let's see what you all say. Your answers will pop up here on the screen.
Can you show the QR code?
Yes, yes, no problem. Let me make that bigger. Okay.
What was the question again?
Describe your commute to the Bhakti Center today in a few words. Okay. Frustrating, slow, pleasant. Wow. Who said that? I walked, took the train, and walked a bit more. I was expecting more spicy answers. Came by the train and walked. Easy but windy, frustrating and slow. Walked to train and then a transfer. Okay, cool. Mine was hot. It was really hot in the train. Okay, so you see how the tool works. Nobody knows who said what. All of your answers are completely anonymous, and they'll show up here as we go through the presentation, okay? I took the F train from Chelsea and walked to the center. Beautiful. Okay, the next question, question number 2. What comes to mind when you hear the word cult?
You just have to change the drop down.
Sorry, so now it's question 2. Got it?
What comes to mind when you hear the word cult?
What comes to mind when you hear the word cult? Okay, we got a couple of brainwashing, Ted Patrick, mind control, restriction, a band I used to like, manipulation, exclusive Kool-Aid, a group with the same views, avoiding outsiders, charismatic leader drinking Kool-Aid, no autonomy or freedom. A relatively small group of people having beliefs or practices, especially related to somebody just copied and pasted that somewhere. Anyway, okay. I don't know why I looked at James. I expected that to be you. I don't know. Okay. I actually gave this presentation to a group of youth over the summer, and they said the same things. They said things like mind control, force, obedience, brainwashing, etc. Okay, we're going to get back to Easy Retro. We're going to use it again throughout the presentation, but let's just talk a little bit more. Let's define it. What is a cult? So I asked AI to tell me what is a cult, and this is what she told me. AI is a she for sure. I don't know why, but it's a she, because she's smart. Okay. So cult, what does it mean? According to AI, a cult is typically defined as a social group with unusual, extreme, or unconventional beliefs, often centered around a charismatic leader, and with a high degree of control over its members. Key characteristics often include isolation from the outside world, rigid rules, and a strong emphasis on loyalty and obedience to the leader. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like us. It sounds a lot like us. And Prabhupada calls us the cult all the time. He says, so what is Chaitanya cult? Chaitanya cult means realization of Krishna. That is Chaitanya cult. 3 times in 3 sentences he said that in this case. In every town, city, village of the world, his cult will be preached. What is his cult? Etc., etc. And in the CC, he says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established a devotional cult everywhere. No one could defeat him. There are so many examples. And he always says, spread this propaganda. So how is this looking for us, you guys? So I looked up the definition of cult in Merriam-Webster. Here might be some other definitions that might feel a little better. Great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work. A system of religious beliefs and ritual. Okay, so maybe that's what Prabhupada meant when he kept talking about or saying the word cult. But the reality is, a lot of us are kind of afraid when we talk about being afraid to bring family and friends or bring my girlfriend around. We're afraid that we fall more into this so-called negative definition of a cult. Ultimately, what it boils down to, so once again, a social group with unusual, extreme, or unconventional beliefs with a high degree of control over its members. It includes isolation from the outside world, rigid rules, and a lot of loyalty and obedience to the leader. Ultimately, when people are afraid of cults, they're thinking about a lack of critical and independent thought. That's the thing that scares people about being cultish. It means we cannot think independently or critically. So let's take this definition and really dive in. Let's confront ourselves and let's confront the institution that is ISKCON and see if we fall into this definition, shall we? Are we a little cultish in ISKCON? So the first element was social group. Am I just following this philosophy because I have a group of friends and community here? unusual or extreme or unconventional beliefs. Look at what's happening in the world today. The world is so divided. There are multiple wars going on. There is so much conflict, so much strife, so much political and social unrest. Are Vedic beliefs really applicable or even relevant to us today and in our context? Or is this a little bit outdated? How can I apply these teachings that are meant for a Vedic society when we don't live in a Vedic world? High degree of control. My goodness, in Bhakti there are so many do-nots. Am I being controlled? People are afraid to be open about struggling with the principles for fear of being judged. Isn't that being controlled? Am I being controlled? Isolation from the outside world. We always hear, stay away from asat sangha, stay away. But what is so bad with hanging out with quote-unquote non-devotees? And isn't that term even a little bit discriminatory? Doesn't that term kind of rub people the wrong way? Rigid rules. What does it matter if I have a cup of coffee once in a while? What is the big deal? Is Krishna really not going to let me back to Godhead? And finally, loyalty and obedience to the leader. What is with all the Prabhupada said rhetoric? What if I don't agree? Raise your hand if anything on this slide, on the right side of this slide, has ever resonated with you. Yeah, me too. I can raise all my hands. So let's use Easy Retro again to explore this a little more. Does anybody need the QR code again, or you guys still have it up? Still got it? Okay. So I'm going to ask, how many more questions? 4 more questions. They might seem a little tangential, but stay with me, okay? Question number 3. What are my biggest obstacles in being more Krishna conscious? What are my biggest obstacles in being more Krishna conscious? Okay, so far we have my mind, my material desires and attachments, my inability to surrender myself, focus, lack of taste, selfishness, desire to enjoy the world and control. I'm distracted with practical responsibilities. I have a distracted mind. Belief in a charismatic leader. I don't know if I get that one, but okay. Okay, thank you. When we did this with the youth, they also said things like, I don't have time, I don't have the desire, and I'm unsure if this philosophy is for me. And I'm kind of just following because my parents raised me in this, but I'm not sure if it's for me. And other people said, all my friends are here, so that's why I'm here. Okay, question number 4. What are some of the non-Krishna conscious ways that I spend my time? What are some of the non-Krishna conscious ways I spend my time? And feel free to put more than one response. TV, videos, Instagram, chasing money, movies, Netflix, not Netflix, I watched the one Netflix. Shopping for clothes, reading material books, work and traveling, spending time with friends. Okay. When we did this with the youth, some of their answers were video games, Netflix, social media, work, going to the bar, and just trying to survive. My husband and I always joke about, like, how do people chant and, like, eat? Like, how do people have time for both? How do people have time for cooking and chanting and eating when they're working? And it's hard. Oversleeping or napping, etc. Thank you. 2 more questions. Question number 5. What comes to mind when I hear the words obedience and submission? What comes to mind when I hear the words obedience and submission? Run to the hills, control, cult, guru and disciple, force, abuse, exploitation, traditional expectations of a wife, nefarious control. I feel resistance to that. Bhagavat let it out, just laugh. She's like losing it over here. Abuse and control, exploitation, etc. Okay. And then the last question, question number 6. What's some of my beef with Krishna consciousness? Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to address each thing, but just what's some of my beef with Krishna consciousness? That is question number 6.
This is meant to be anonymous, so
We don't.
I find it difficult.
You make it obvious.
To be pointed out at this.
Obedience and submission, I think of misogyny. What else? Leaders who are absent but control. One size fits all lifestyle. So remember, we're answering what's some of my beef with Krishna consciousness. Too much Indian conservatism, okay?
Krishna consciousness or ISKCON?
Krishna consciousness. It could also be.
It's different.
It could also be the institution, you can write that too, yeah. Material consciousness that exists in any institution. Eggs, caffeine, patriarchy. What's the harm with caffeine? I miss coffee. Okay. The institution. Lack of support for physical needs of the world. Okay. So when I, again, did this with the youth, some of their answers included the treatment of women in the Shastra. They said it doesn't seem applicable to my life. And they said there are so many rigid rules and regulations, which sounds like we're saying a lot of the same things here. Okay, let's just take a second to reflect. What are your thoughts when you see this? First of all, thank you so much, all of you, for participating, for your honesty. What are some of your thoughts? Does this make you feel surprised, not surprised at all, relieved, nothing? What does this make you feel?
Like it can also be like applied to many other things, not just ISKCON, right? If you think of any sort of like group, I can think of like political groups too, where they like say, oh, don't hang out with these people, or like exclude these people from your life, or only watch these news channels. I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of, I don't know. It could apply to many different things. I was talking to Jenna as we were walking from the train here.
Drag me down with you.
I was talking with Jenna on my way here. It's not on. And she was like, isn't everything a cult in some way? And then I was like, oh, Johnny Tiger said that yesterday. Like, everything is a cult. So I feel like this maybe has like a little bit of like a ISKCON flavor to it, but like it could very much be applied to many different groups, even cultural groups that we see around.
Okay, so we're hearing that this can apply to many different institutions, many different organizations and groups. Thank you. Did you want to say something, or are you trying to fix the mic?
I'm trying to fix the mic.
Okay.
I feel like I'm in a sound system cult.
Does anybody else want to say anything? Any reflections on this?
I think it's always like, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think it's always interesting, like question 6, like there are a lot of things that people have like friction around, let's say, but like we do just also accept it.
Yeah.
And that's like an interesting thing, like, oh, I believe in so much of it, so like, yes, this thing rubs me the wrong way, but, you know, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, thank you. So same sort of idea, like people just sweep things under the rug and they just don't address it. Okay, thank you all so much. What if I could tell you that everything that you all wrote and everything that the youth wrote when we did this talk with them could have been predicted? What if I could tell you that this is exactly what we all would have expected anybody to say within our institution? I'm going to share with you all a video that my spiritual master shared with his disciples a few months ago. Have a look. I'm going to just put my microphone on the laptop for a second. Okay.
GPT, if you were the devil, how would you keep people as far away from God as possible without them realizing it?
If I were the devil and I wanted to keep people as far away from God as possible without them realizing it, I wouldn't do it by outright denial. That's too obvious. Instead, I'd work in subtle distractions, Small shifts in focus that seem harmless, but over time create a massive distance. I'd start by corrupting mainstream religion, turning it into a tool for control, hypocrisy, and division. I'd make people obsessed with this life, their ambitions, their desires, their status, not by telling them to abandon faith, but by making them too busy for it. I'd fill their time with constant noise, social media scrolling, endless entertainment, mindless consumption, until silence becomes uncomfortable and self-reflection feels impossible. I'd make instant gratification the ultimate goal. I'd make sin feel like self-expression, like freedom, like something to be proud of. I'd reframe obedience to God as oppression and rebellion as liberation. I'd make them think they're too intelligent to submit, too modern to follow divine guidance. I'd make worship feel like a burden instead of a refuge, and acts of devotion seem outdated. And above all, I'd make sure they never realize what's happening. Because the greatest trick isn't to make them reject God, but to make them forget Him.
Hi guys, we are in a cult, but it's the cult of materialism. It's the cult of Maya, the cult of the material world. So let's read this definition again. Reggie, can you read that for us?
Sure. A cult is typically
There you go.
Thank you. A cult is typically defined as a social group with unusual, extreme, or unconventional beliefs, often centered around a charismatic leader and with a high degree of control over its members. Key characteristics often include isolation from the outside world, rigid rules, and strong emphasis on loyalty and obedience to the leader.
Thank you. And once again, it sounds like what people are afraid of is a lack of independent and critical thought. So let's do the same thing. Let's break down this definition and do it from the perspective of the material world. Okay, so the cult of materialism. So the first one, social group. We all know that we are programmed to tie our identities and our self-worth to social media. We know that we are constantly made to compare ourselves to others, and we become obsessed with our own ambitions and desires and status. Somebody had written that as well, that that's a distraction to my Krishna consciousness. We feel pressure to fit in by hedonistic habits, whether that is drinking or smoking or whatever that is. There's so much social pressure that we feel. Unusual, extreme, or unconventional beliefs. We live in a world that has normalized the recreational killing of animals. I've been in Bhakti my entire life, and it was only about 10 years ago that I decided to stop buying leather. But I still have leather shoes, leather bags at home, because it was almost unconscious, not even realizing what I was doing. We live in a world where pop psychology tells us to just let go what doesn't feel good. And we have binary thinking where nuanced thinking can get you canceled. There's so much pressure. You have to say the right thing, do the right thing, otherwise you're going to be canceled by your employers, by your friends, etc. Our political landscape has very unusual. You have to be either far this way or far this way. Anybody who's in the middle is on dangerous territory because, once again, nuanced thinking now is punished. High degree of control. We're too busy for self-realization. Worship becomes a burden. We are working really, really hard. We are struggling to pay rent. We're struggling. There's an affordability crisis in this country right now. We are being controlled by the rat race, by chasing the carrot, which makes worship a burden. How many of us have ever felt like, I don't have time to chant? What to speak of reading? How do I do anything other than that? How do I keep up with this when life itself is just so busy? We are controlled by consumer culture that controls our dollars. We have constant distraction from our spiritual goals. When you think about where is my attention going, you can see the way we're being controlled. Isolation. It's no secret that we're in a loneliness epidemic. Big tech and pharma and other industries profit from us being sad, lonely, and anxious. We live in our echo chambers with our social media and with our friends and with the people that we hang out with, which fans division through social and news media bias, etc. We have endless entertainment and consumption that keeps us away from human connection. So the material world, materialism is designed to keep us isolated because who profits from that? Many people profit from that. Rigid rules. We are constantly being exploited by the rules that just a few people create. Who said that work should be 9 to 5? That's a paradigm that we all all just accept without thinking through that, or 5+, because now, it's a badge of honor to be working late, to be sending an email at 6 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. We pay exorbitant rent, we have no control over that, there's no consumer protections. What is insurance? But we all have to pay it. There's so many rigid rules here that we are bound by. Corporate culture controls our time, and social norms make us feel pressured to act against our values. So again, rigid rules. Loyalty and obedience to a leader. We are programmed to worship celebrities and likes and algorithms and business gurus and athletes and influencers. We all want to be influencers. We all want to be that leader that has the loyalty and obedience. So again, a lack of critical and independent thought is how the material world profits from and controls you. So the material world is the real cult. The material world does not want us to think independently and critically. And guess what? It's shastric. So Arjuna said, "O descendant of Rishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly as if engaged by force?" And then Krishna said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born in contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this material world." Let's take social media for example. How many times have you ever looked at your phone to check the time, and then it's 20 minutes later, you put your phone away and you still don't know what time it is? Or you bought something all of a sudden. It's like almost by force this happens, and ultimately this is because of lust. Lust for entertainment, lust for comparing ourselves, lust for the news, lust for feeling good, feeling better, for external validation. This is all ultimately because of lust. And we know from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that lust leads to anger, right? Which leads to delusion, which leads to bewilderment of memory, which leads to lost intelligence, and ultimately us falling back down into the material hole. And if we're not careful, this entire process kind of happens in a way that we're sort of unconscious of it. We don't even know that it's happening. We're kind of asleep, letting this world sort of control us. And so we're unconsciously not noticing how the forces of nature are working on us. Does everybody see that? Yeah? Okay. Now, Prabhupada did not want this to be ISKCON. He wanted us to wake up, Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. That's why he always said, be conscious first, and then we can become Krishna conscious. He always said, wake up. We have been in this material world, as Prabhupada says, since time immemorial, because we wanted to have a physical body which we can enjoy, which Prabhupada uses the expression, lord it over material nature, because we were a little envious of Krishna, and we wanted to have some worship, and we wanted to enjoy. So he kindly gave us these material facilities, this material body. And when we get here, the modes of material nature start to control us. And then we're in a cult where there is no critical and independent thinking, and we just go on moving until we get so exploited and there's so much suffering that one day we're like, wait, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something more to this. And that's when we slowly start to wake up. Just 1 second. Right. So Prabhupada never wanted us to go from being asleep in the material world, in our material lives, to being asleep in our spiritual life, which is why he also said, do not accept blindly, but also do not reject blindly. And he always said, never surrender your intelligence. Prabhupada is literally telling us not to be cultish. Prabhupada is literally telling us, do not give up your independent and critical thought. Do not go from being asleep in the material world to being asleep in your spiritual life. Now, one of the most integral ways to not be asleep in the material world and to not be controlled by the material energy is to learn how to distinguish spirit from matter. We've all heard this expression many times. We've read it many times. But do we know what it means? Because once again, we have been in this material world since time immemorial. And what comes with us when we go from body to body? What's one thing that comes with us? The mind, the subtle body. The mind, the intelligence, and the false ego. And so think about that. We have been in so many species of life. We've had so many human lives. And in each life, we are collecting multiple impressions that are forming these material paradigms that then we see the world. And then we make the mistake of using our material paradigms as a litmus test for Shastra. And that's never going to work. If we use material paradigms as a litmus test for Shastra, that is the cult of the material world working on you. So when we read that we need to distinguish between spirit and matter, let's not just do what I do and just read past it and then keep going. What does that mean? That is one of the deepest things. If we just meditated on this our entire lives, we would go back to God. So let's give a little example. I'm going to put some ideas on the screen, and you guys tell me if this is a material, if these are material or spiritual paradigms, okay? Everyone deserves to express themselves freely, without judgment and without censorship. People need to be left to exercise their free will. If something doesn't feel right, it should be avoided. War must be avoided. And lastly, men and women should always be treated equally. Are these material or spiritual paradigms? What do you think? Could be either. Can you say more about that?
The main difference between matter and spirit is the intention with which we approach it. Right? We often hear that a knife could be either good or bad. A knife could be good in the hand of a surgeon, but bad in the hand of a robber. So the knife in itself is neither good nor bad. So everything could be potentially material and everything could be potentially spiritual.
Thank you. That's it. That's exactly it. None of these statements is innately material or spiritual. It depends on, are we putting Krishna in the center or are we putting I and mine in the center? These same statements, if we put I and mine in the center, are going to entangle us in the material world. These same statements, if we put Krishna in the center, will be the cause of our liberation. And it's hard and it's subtle because we're walking around the material world trying to adopt spiritual paradigms, and it's different. It's like swimming against the current. So if we are constantly trying to be conscious of is this material or spiritual, our whole Krishna consciousness will change. It's like Prabhupada would say, everything is like zero. And when you put the one in front, then it gives it value. So everything is like zero, but when you put Krishna at the front, then it gives it value. So once again, what do we do when we're not, when we're using our material paradigms as a litmus test for Shastra? Then we see something that rubs us the wrong way, and we make a choice to maybe sweep it under the rug. Or, even worse, and I see this a lot with the younger generations, we might even throw the baby out with the bathwater. So instead, what is required is submissive inquiry and grappling, because with grappling comes growth. When you reject spiritual paradigms because they bump up against material paradigms, once again, that is the cult of the material world working on you. So how do we not be cultish? Because there is cultish behavior within ISKCON. By refusing, the way to not be cultish is by refusing to practice our bhakti superficially. That means to really understand what we're reading, what we're talking about, and really sincerely try to apply it. Let's refer to Satchidananda Swami's Tree of Life. Some of you are familiar with this. He talks about how our bhakti is like a tree. So our roots are our individual spiritual nourishment. Our trunk is a supportive lifestyle. And the crown is our personal contribution to the welfare of other living beings. So let's go a little deeper into the roots, our individual spiritual nourishment. That consists of things like hearing, chanting, reflecting on what we're hearing, so not just reading for the sake of reading, but reflecting on what we're reading and hearing, and trying to apply what we're reading and hearing, and praying to the Lord that, like, help me understand how this is applicable to my life. One of my mentors says that every single word and every single sentence that Prabhupada has ever written is for you, it's for you, it's for you. Why? Why is this sentence relevant to me? That's one question that we can ask ourselves to continue to grow our spiritual roots. Investing in our roots also means having or developing faith in the Guru, grappling when we don't understand something, receiving mentorship, and observing and appreciating Krishna's presence and magic in our lives. So when things happen in our lives, so let's say there's a horrible breakup, or there's atrocities in the movement, or we're even mistreated by a devotee, what would happen if we don't have strong roots?
You leave.
A tree would fall, right? In a storm? Yeah, you could leave.
That too.
You could leave. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't phrase it right. If we don't have strong roots, then the storms that are inevitable, the storms that will come as being part of an institution that has many flaws, when we see something in Shastra that we don't relate to or that we struggle with, if we don't have strong roots with hearing, chanting, developing faith, receiving mentorship, etc., then we could fall, we could leave. And rest assured that storms are coming. There will be crises of faith. There will be crises of faith. Bhakti Swami talks about how progression in Krishna consciousness necessitates crisis. Bhakti Swami talks about how when you're going up a flight of stairs, there's a certain tension before you get to that next step. You have to experience tension, and you have to experience crisis before going to the next level. With superficial bhakti, whenever there's a crisis or tension, we might leave. And if we don't have strong roots, that's very likely to happen. Bhakti Swami also talks about, he compares the development of a devotee to the development of a baby. And if I were to take that metaphor a little bit further, Srila Prabhupada talks about how when you're raising children from the ages of 0 to 5, you should just make them feel loved and secure and confident and like they know that they're safe. That just make them feel inherently valuable. And then from 5 to 15 is when you really get more strict about discipline. That's when a child goes to school, it's all about education. And then after 15, you just become friends with your child. So if we were to sort of take these two ideas side by side and try to explore that deeper, that first phase of bhakti, Maharaj talks about how, you know, when something is wrong as an adult and you go to therapy, one of the first questions the therapist will ask you is about your childhood, right? Like, tell me about your childhood. Similarly, in Krishna consciousness, those beginning experiences that we have in Krishna consciousness can be really defining for our faith, right? Like if you were new to Krishna consciousness and somebody didn't treat you properly, then automatically you have a negative impression of the entire institution, of the entire philosophy. So those first experiences, when somebody is first coming to Krishna consciousness, it's so important to just have the unconditional love of devotees, just like a baby needs the unconditional love of a parent. Now that second stage, when we're growing up as human beings from 5 to 15, it happens automatically. You go from 5 and then a year passes, you turn 6, and then you continue to grow. In Krishna consciousness, this second stage is a choice. We can choose to graduate to that second stage, which necessitates discipline and study. You see so many people who have been in the movement for many, many decades who we absolutely respect and offer our humble obeisances to because they are senior, but they might not be in that second stage of willingly learning discipline and studying the Shastra. And then we conflate spiritual maturity with years of exposure to the movement, and unfortunately they're not always the same thing. And so developing spiritual maturity, developing this faith, growing our roots will make sure that we're not being cultish and that we are exercising our bhakti with our eyes open. We are understanding what we're reading, and when we don't understand, we are asking questions. When there's a crisis, we talk about it instead of leaving. We invest in our roots. And the thing about our roots is that it's invisible. Nobody can see that this is what we're doing. Nobody's going to clap for you for spending 2 hours every day to do your japa. Nobody's going to clap for you for reading or for investing in your relationship with your guru. These are all things that are intangible. And once again, in the cult of the material world, we're programmed to want to receive tangible benefits for everything, and that's not necessarily what happens in this part of our bhakti when we're investing in our roots. So this is the way to develop faith. And this is a way to ensure we're not being cultish within ISKCON. So let's just talk a little more about faith and the 3 types of evidence. So according to the Ishopanishad, we all have faith, right? It's just a question of where we place it. Faith is innate, it's inherent in each of us. We have to have faith in the subway operator. We have to have faith that the foundation of this building is okay. Every time you get on a plane, you have to have faith that the pilot knows what he or she is doing. You have to have faith that a doctor knows what medication to prescribe, etc. It's just a question of, do we want to place our faith in material energy or in Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? So what are the three types of evidence according to the Ishopanishad? Does anybody know?
Empiric.
Yeah, so we have Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda, right? So Pratyaksha is direct evidence. It's not great because we have imperfect senses, right? There's Anuman, inductive knowledge, and then there's Shabda, Vedic knowledge from authority. We want to get to a place where we'll read something in Shastra and we trust it implicitly. Most of us are not there yet. Some of us will still, myself included, read something in Shastra and not appreciate it, or not understand it, or struggle with it, or it rubs you the wrong way. We want to get to a place where even if it rubs us the wrong way, we still have implicit faith that maybe there's something I need to understand, I need to learn, I need to grow in order to understand this deeply. And we don't have a lot of that in our movement, honestly. And so there's so many externals that people are coming and seeing, and it appears to be cultish. But Bhakti is such an internal process. If there are two people, let's say you bring a new person to the temple, and there are two people inside, and the curtains open, and both of them bow down to offer obeisances. One person is doing that from their heart. They're sincerely offering obeisances to their Lord. The other person doesn't really know why they're doing it, but they're just doing it because they were told that's what you're supposed to do. Externally, they're both doing the same thing, and externally that could appear cultish. But one person is being cultish, and one person is not. One person understands why he or she is doing the thing, and the other person does not. So we cannot judge by externals, but when we are internally investing in our roots all the time, then that will somehow emanate externally. People will be able to see, like, no, these people are not cultish. They're in it with their minds, with their hearts, with their intelligence. When Mahaprabhu was talking to Sanatana Goswami, I think it's chapter 22, in Madhya Lila, verse 66, he's quoting Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he says, Shastri Yuktacha Nipuna Sarvada Drida Nishaya Rodasha Bodhikariya Sabhaktam Uttamomatam. One who is expert in logic and understanding the revealed scriptures, and who always has firm conviction and a deep faith that is not blind, is to be considered a topmost devotee in devotional service. So, again, nobody's telling us to be cultish. Prabhupada is telling us to think independently and critically. He always said, I want my devotees to be independently thoughtful. And here Mahaprabhu is telling Sanatana Goswami the same thing. Do not have blind faith. Do not surrender your intelligence. So when we get to that point where our faith becomes so strong by carefully, authentically following the process of bhakti that Prabhupada repeatedly says is a gradual process, then actually this definition of a cult might not sound so bad anymore. A social group. So Prabhupada's built a house where the whole world can live. I'm so grateful that each of you is my guest. Some of you came just to support me today. I'm so grateful to have a family in ISKCON. Unusual, extreme, or unconventional beliefs. Just like a parent needs to discipline a child, if me not having coffee, not having caffeine, or following some of these principles will make me go back to God at the end of this life so as to clear my consciousness to really imbibe spiritual truths, sign me up, let's do it. High degree of control over its members. Okay, if I don't want to anymore be controlled by the cigarette or by the alcohol or by the thing, so that I can be safe and protected like a child is protected at home, sign me up. If isolation from the outside world doesn't mean to be judgmental and fanatic, but to associate with people with similar goals to me, which to your point, Rajatushni, that happens in every realm, in sports, in business, in fashion, and everywhere. If you want to be successful, you associate with people who have similar like-minded goals and people who are more successful so that you can sort of be influenced and inspired by their association. As long as we're not being judgmental, there's nothing wrong with having a lot of devotee association. And a strong emphasis on loyalty and obedience to Srila Prabhupada, who poured buckets and buckets of blood to make sure I'm no longer going around in this material world asleep, and I'm no longer being exploited and suffering, and this is a loving father and grandfather who just wants me to go back to Godhead after the end of this life, then sign me up. I'm happy to be part of this cult. As you remember, there are two connotations of the word cult. One is negative, where there's a lack of independent and critical thought, and you see now from Prabhupada and from Mahaprabhu and Krishna himself that they don't want us to not think independently and critically. Then sign me up. The key is that we engage with Bhakti with our eyes wide open, and we choose not to be asleep in our Krishna consciousness. So let's do a quick recap of what we've talked about as Amrita Kishore is about to open the doors. So, the negative connotation of a cult is a lack of critical and independent thought. This is what the material energy is doing, it's keeping us asleep. Jeev Jago, wake up and see that the material paradigms have only made us more bound to the material world. Be open to identifying them and letting them go, and do not use them as a litmus test for Shastra. And avoid being cultish within ISKCON by being firmly rooted in Japa, Shastra, and Sangha. Ask questions and express your doubts submissively, and never surrender your intelligence, and don't accept or reject blindly. Prabhupada showed us this by example when he met his guru for the first time. His guru said, go and preach to the English-speaking world. And Prabhupada's first response was, wait, shouldn't we be an independent and a free country first? Who's going to listen to us? He expressed a doubt right off the bat, submissively. So he showed us by example that that's okay. And own your Bhakti and make it yours. You won't be afraid to give your girlfriend your Gita or bring her to the temple if you are rooted. So become spiritually mature, and again, do not conflate years of experience in Bhakti with deep spiritual maturity. So I'm going to leave you with a quote by Bhaktivedanta Swami. Krishna consciousness is not some exotic cult intended for rebels and those who defy accepted norms. Srila Prabhupada insisted that Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga is, above all, the universal science of the relationship between the soul and God. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, is basically trying to teach this science of the soul, not in any dogmatic way, but through complete scientific and philosophical understanding. And then the last thing I'll say, and what I always love to remind the younger generation, is that it has taken us lifetimes to be in this room and having this conversation. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that it's buckets and buckets of blood for one devotee. So there have been buckets and buckets of blood for each of the people in this room. You have no idea, we have no idea how fully and completely loved that we are. And how there is somebody and a whole army of people, the whole parampara, and all of Krishna's agents and Krishna himself are so desperate for us to stop suffering and stop being exploited. And they're waiting for us so beautifully and patiently in this spiritual world. So the question is, the last question I'll leave you with, is which cult do you want to be a part of? Okay, I think we literally have a minute left. Would anybody like to share any reflections or questions or directions?
Are you raising your hand, James?
Thank you very thank you very much for tolerating the sound system cult.
That's okay. That's fine.
Thank you for letting us know that we are in a cult.
Thank you for, sorry.
Sorry?
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear that second thing.
I said thank you for letting us know that we are in a cult. I just wanted to share, I looked up the origin of the word cult, and I think it's very interesting. Would you mind if I share it?
Please, please.
It says the word cult originates from the Latin cultus, meaning care or worship, derived from to cultivate. And then they mentioned, I read somewhere, that around 1920, the context, over time, the word's meaning shifted. By 1829, it began to be used for devotion to a person or thing, and starting around 1920, it gained negative connotations. So I often think when Srila Prabhupada speaks, it's like a culture of people who are cultivating devotion or worship. But because of the connotation of the present, then it takes on a negative.
Thank you. Anybody else in the last 30 seconds or so?
Thank you for the.
Hold it about like here.
Thank you for the wonderful class, really. Especially the definition of cult and how we not, and then bringing that to the material was really enjoyed it. Really nice. I think one quick augmentation to that. I like the definition of cult, which is the lack of independent and critical thinking. I put that into my committed to the mind. The biggest example where our Sanatana Dharma or Krishna consciousness is not a cult is the Bhagavad Gita itself. Because the whole thing comes out of some mystic inquiry from Arjuna. If he did not, it would be level of Chaturshloki or maybe 18.66 or the Hanuman Paritraja, about 700 verses purely because Arjuna keeps on asking without submitting his intelligence straight away, and that's where it goes. And Krishna in the end, in the 18th chapter, after saying the whole thing, he asks Arjuna again, that is it clear to you? And a lot of acharyas have said that if Arjuna had said no, Krishna would have done the Bhagavad Gita again. So I think that example fits in very well with the lack of independent or critical thinking.
Yeah, thank you. That's so beautiful. And even during the battle of Kurukshetra, when Abhimanyu passes away and Arjuna is reeling, Krishna doesn't say like, dude, I just told you the whole Bhagavad Gita, what's your problem? He loves him and gives him empathy and cares. He's so patient and wants us to be authentic. Thank you so much. It's beautiful. I think we're at time. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Everybody's Thank you so much for that very insightful class, Radha Bhakti Devi. Very inspired to ask questions and to grapple submissively. Thank you. So we will now have Arti, so please let us take the questions, and I'll be back with some announcements. Thank you.
Namaste, Saraswati Devi.
Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. EBT founder Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Sivaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinath Shamakam Radhakam Gita Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Chamuna Maya ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Muralidhar ke. Gaur Chandra Bhagavan ke. Harinam Sankirtan ke. Sankirtan Yagni ke. Brahmadharma Transcendental Distribution ke. Radha Gaura Paramanandi. Glory to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. First reading.
What's that? No mic?
Just
Okay.
say
Took my heart.
heart is bigger than the whole world.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know if I can do the cartels at the same time. Let's see. I'm not sure. Okay. You're welcome to. All right. Gonna pray. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste
Hi. No Mike, Pete. No Mike. No, we're done. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can we please have another big round of applause for our speaker, Grace Radha. So this is just one of many events that we have going on here at Bhakti Center. So I'm going to share a few more with you, and you're going to say, Jana, how am I going to remember all of these? You're saying so many. Don't worry. That's why we have the Bhakti Center website, bhakticenter.org. That's why we have the WhatsApp group. That's why we have our temple newsletter, so you can be informed and stay in the loop about all of these things. And if you need help getting onto any of those email lists, I'm going to volunteer Baba Bhakti. Thank you. She'll be happy to help you. So November 22nd, I think that's next Saturday, we have our community Japathon from 9 to 1 p.m. I think we also have 6-hour kirtan on that day. So you can really just have the holy name the full length of the day. For anyone that's going to be here for Thanksgiving, we have a Thanksgiving dinner at Bhakti Center that will be from 4 to 6:30 on that Thursday. So please come. This is your home. This is your spiritual family. If you're not traveling home for the holidays, please be here with all of us. We'd love to have you. There's a Japa workshop that weekend as well, from 2 to 4 on November 29th. We just learned today that Japa is such a foundation that's part of our roots. We have Gita Jayanti Yagya on December 1st from 6 to 9. We'll have another Japa workshop on December 13th if you couldn't make it to the first one. And then we're going to have a Christmas party on December 20th from 4 to 7 p.m. Keep the good times rolling before the New Year's. So all of this is available on bhakticenter.org. There's opportunities for you to donate there, for you to volunteer, and engage in any way that you feel inspired. So as always, I will just share that this is a community-run program, as are pretty much all of Bhakti Center's programs. So there is a donation basket out front and QR codes if you feel so inspired to donate at this time. But regardless, we are so happy that you're here. Thank you for spending your time on a Sunday with us. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy Prashadam in the back. Hare Krishna. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.